Welcome to the episode 4 of our story, A Second Shot, written by SoK Padua. The world seemed to stop. People moved in slow motion, and Aya felt every emotion inside her threatening to erupt. She never expected this day to come. Slowly, she turned her head, and there he was, Alex, with his charming smile. The childhood friend she once knew, now older, wiser, and more manly than she remembered. At first, Alex didn't seem to notice, but then his mind raced. A distant memory rushed forward. Aya Konoe, the petite girl with short hair and a radiant smile. Now, standing in front of him, she was older, more beautiful. Her cheeks flushed as she stared at him. "Aya?" Alex asked, his voice barely audible. Aya looked down, her hands trembling. "Yeah, long time no see, Alex," she whispered. Her heart pounded, and memories of the past flooded her mind. She had left without a goodbye, and now, standing before him, the weight of her actions bore down on her. Alex's emotions surged. Questions he had buried for years surfaced all at once. Without thinking, he grabbed Aya by the arm. "We need to talk," he said firmly, leading her toward the private room. Startled, a waitress nearby froze, her face pale. She rushed to Rebecca. "Something's wrong with Aya." Alex just dragged her to the private room. Rebecca's eyes widened as she relayed the news to the chefs. A group of burly men, covered in tattoos and sporting long beards, sprang into action. They stormed toward the private room, their heavy footsteps echoing. One of them knocked loudly. "Hey, what's going on in there? Open up." The door opened slightly, and Terrence raised his hands defensively. "We're not involved, but I think you should hear them out before jumping to conclusions." Inside, Aya stood with tears streaming down her face. "Did you ever think about how I felt? Leaving wasn't easy. It hurt me too," she shouted, her voice cracking. Alex's own tears welled up. "I thought about it every day. That's why I did what you told me. But you left without a word. Do you know how much that broke me? Weeks turned to months, then years, and I still haven't stopped wondering why." Geneva stepped between them, her hands raised. "Guys, I think it's better to talk this out when you're calm." Terrence joined her, holding Alex back. "She's right, man. Let's all take a breath." Rebecca moved to Aya's side, her voice soft. "Come on, Aya. Let's sit down." One of the chefs spoke up. "All right, everyone. Back to your tables. Let's give them some space." The burly men reluctantly retreated, and the room grew quiet again. Aya and Alex stood across from each other, both trying to steady their breathing, the weight of their past pressing down on them. For the first time in years, they faced the pain they had both carried, knowing there was no turning back. "So you've both been carrying this baggage for years, and now you collide like this," Geneva said, stepping between them, her voice calm but firm. "My question is, were you two in a relationship before? Did you ever get closure?" "We weren't in that kind of relationship," Aya said, her tone sharp and serious. "Yeah, hell nah," Alex retorted, his words dripping with exaggerated disdain. Aya's calm facade cracked, her brow twitching in annoyance. "You sound like it's a privilege for you to imagine us together. Get off your high horse," she shot back, her voice laced with sarcasm. Alex rolled his eyes dramatically. "You and me? Together? Ew. Duh." Aya turned to him, her expression a mix of disgust and disbelief. She muttered under her breath, loud enough for him to hear, "You're not making it out of here alive." "Yo-yo," Terrence interjected, stepping forward with his hands up like a referee breaking up a fight. "No backup is needed. Seriously, let's calm down. You've made it clear, abundantly clear. You weren't in a relationship, or something like that." Geneva and Terrence exchanged a knowing glance, their unspoken thoughts written on their faces. "Yeah, sure. You two totally weren't a thing." Geneva sighed and stepped closer. "Are we good now? Can we move past this? It's a reunion, for heaven's sake. Whatever happened in the past, this is a chance to reconnect." Aya took a deep breath, her anger simmering down. "Yeah, fine. but I can't stay much longer. I'm helping out Master right now. I need to get back to my station." Geneva smiled softly. "Then we'll wait for you to finish your shift. We'll hold on to this room until then. No alcoholic drinks, though. We'll just order some juice." Aya nodded, her usual playful grin returning. "Sure. Got it." With that, she turned and walked back toward the bar. As the hours passed, Aya stood behind the bar, wiping down glasses when a chill ran up her spine. Her hair stood on end, and she froze. "Oh no," she muttered. "I've got a bad feeling." Sure enough, she spotted her mom, Sakura, and Kina rushing through the entrance. Sakura immediately enveloped Aya in a tight hug. "Are you all right, love?" Sakura asked, her voice filled with concern. "Yeah, I'm fine," Aya replied with a warm smile. "The commotion just got a little out of hand." Sakura pulled back, her brows furrowed in anger. "Who caused it? Put a case against them. That kind of behavior is unacceptable." Aya hesitated for a moment before admitting, "It was Alex. Alex Shelly, my childhood friend. We got into an argument about the past." Sakura's expression softened with recognition, and she let go of Aya completely. "Oh, is that so?" she said, her tone suddenly neutral. Then, with a sly look, she added, "I'm sure you had your part in it too." Without another word, Sakura turned and walked toward the private room. "Mom, I thought you were on my side." Aya called after her, pouting as her mother disappeared down the hall. Aya crossed her arms, still murmuring to herself, "Great. Now I know why I got that bad feeling. She's probably going to side with Alex." Kenta, who had been quietly observing, walked over and chuckled. "You okay?" Aya glanced up at him and gave a playful grin. "Yeah, no harm done. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made it out alive," she said, flexing her arms for emphasis. Kenta laughed, shaking his head. "Good to know you've got backup," he said, gesturing toward the regulars scattered around the bar, all clearly keeping an eye on her. Aya smirked, her confidence returning. "Darn right I do." Alex sat quietly, watching Geneva and Terrence play, his operated arm resting on his lap. He occasionally offered tips, guiding them on where to aim or which ball to choose, but his mind was elsewhere, drifting between memories and the tension from earlier. A sharp buzz snapped him back to the present. Rising from his seat, he opened the door and froze. Standing there was Sakura, her expression serious. "Miss Konoe, how are you doing?" Alex asked, his voice tinged with nervousness. Geneva and Terrence paused mid-game, exchanging glances. Terrence leaned closer to Geneva and whispered, "Round 2? Geneva replied under her breath, "I don't think so. She doesn't look mad enough." Sakura's eyes softened slightly as she looked at Alex. "You're still so formal. I'm used to you calling me Auntie. Or, when you were younger, Mommy Sakura." Her tone held a faint trace of nostalgia. Before Geneva or Terrence could speak, Sakura turned to them, her gaze shifting. "Hello," she said briskly, cutting off their polite greetings. "Please join us. We're heading back to our place for some snacks or dinner. You're welcome to join us." The two looked at each other, surprised but quickly nodding in agreement. Alex hesitated for a moment, then gave a small nod as well. As they made their way out, they passed the bar where Aya was finishing her shift. Sakura stopped and called out to her daughter. "Aya, let's go. We're heading back." Aya glanced up, surprised. "Huh. Oh, sure. Let me grab my things." Kenta, who had been quietly observing, gave a small chuckle and followed the group. Together, they stepped out into the cold night, leaving the billiard hall behind. The Konoe household felt renewed, its warm, bustling atmosphere filled with conversation and laughter. Aya and Kenta chatted comfortably, while Terrence and Geneva slowly integrated themselves into the group, their lively banter easing the mood. Alex, however, remained on the sidelines, awkwardly observing the interactions. Noticing his discomfort, Aya approached him hesitantly. How long do you plan to sit on the sidelines? How's your arm after the operation?" she asked, her gaze flickering to his bandaged arm. Alex glanced at her, his expression guarded. It's fine. Getting better, he said curtly. That's good to hear. Aya replied softly, unsure how to continue. Awkward, Terence whispered, earning a stifled laugh from Geneva. Kenta, sensing the tension, stood up and walked to the kitchen, where Sakura was preparing food. Need a hand? He asked. Sakura glanced over her shoulder, a playful smirk on her lips. Not much left to do. What can you manage with that back of yours? It's getting better, Kenta replied with a chuckle. But honestly, I needed a break from the tension out there. What's the story with Aya and Alex anyway? Sakura sighed, her smile softening. They were childhood friends. Alex is the son of my best friends. Back then, we used to joke about marrying the two of them one day. Kenta nodded thoughtfully. And then, everything happened? Yes, Sakura said quietly. Maybe I share some of the blame for how things turned out. Kenta shook his head. I don't think so. This can still be fixed. It's obvious they're both hurt, but there's room for a second chance. Sakura raised an eyebrow, a playful glint in her eye. What do you know about second chances? Well, Kenta said with a smile, I've been pursuing you for years, haven't I? I think I've gotten pretty good at it. Sakura laughed softly. Honestly, I didn't even notice until, well, earlier today. Then I'll just have to keep trying. But my back says, take it slow, Kenta joked, rubbing his lower back. Sakura giggled, but her expression turned serious. I have an idea to help Aya and Alex. Will you support me on this? Of course, Kenta said, his grin widening. Just tell me what you need. Sakura pointed to a stack of plates. For now, grab those. Time to eat. Maybe a good meal will cool those two down. Minutes later, they called everyone to the table. The group gathered for a proper meal, the tension slowly giving way to the warmth of shared food and laughter. The meal ended with warm chatter, and everyone moved to the living room. Aya excused herself to prepare some Earl Grey tea, leaving the group to continue their conversation. Sakura turned to Geneva and Terence, her tone warm but curious. So, you've both been friends with Alex for some time? Geneva smiled. That's right. We became friends not long after Aya, and you moved to Canada. Alex was already active in the snooker scene back then. Sakura nodded thoughtfully. I'm glad he had good friends like you both during that time. As his parents' best friend, I want to thank you. Terence rubbed the back of his neck, visibly shy. It's nothing, really. He was always more of a mentor to us. We just stuck around. Meanwhile, Alex sat quietly, listening. When Sakura turned to him, her voice softened. How are your parents, Alex? They're doing well, Alex said with a small smile. They've kept the billiard hall running. You know, the one your family started back then. They took over? Sakura asked, surprised. Alex nodded. Yeah. They said you were their best friends, and even after everything that happened, you'll always be part of the family. Sakura's smile faltered briefly. That's kind of them. Please thank them for me. If they need it, they can have my address. Alex hesitated before asking, what about him? Will he find out? Kenta exchanged a glance with Sakura, who exhaled deeply. He's still Aya's father. I've moved past all of that now. Relieved, Alex nodded. Thank you. I'll let them know. They'll be happy to hear from you. Would it be okay to share your number? Sakura handed him her phone with a gentle smile. Of course. Just then, Aya entered, carefully balancing a tray with a teapot and cups. She muttered under her breath as she walked, Don't drop it. Mama will kill me. Don't drop it. Terence stood to help her, but before he could reach her, Sakura spoke. Aya is joining the snooker tournament in Toronto this January. It's an annual open challenge, isn't it, Kenta? Caught off guard, Kenta fumbled his response. Yeah. I already submitted her participation papers. Aya froze mid-step, her jaw dropping. Mom, what are you talking about? Ignoring Aya's outburst, Sakura turned to Alex. Alex, since you've been training Geneva and Terence, I'd like you to coach Aya as well. She needs to face her past and embrace her love for the game again. Alex blinked in surprise, his expression shifting. He glanced at Aya, who looked utterly dumbfounded. Finally, with a faint smirk, he replied, "I'll do it, Auntie, but I'll train her my way. Think military drills." Aya groaned, covering her face. "Good luck, me," she muttered, bracing herself for what was to come. Thank you for listening. See you at the next episode.